Hi, I'm Greg, and I'm going to be talking about photoshopping and image retouch. Now, you can use image retouching programs like Photoshop, for example, and Snapseed. I use Snapseed because I've grown up using various different photo manipulation tools, color grading tools, to actually do, be it a film, do it photography, do it whatever I'm working with. And I've got used to some of its secret tools. Now, when I go into Photoshop, these tools are things I will go to again and again, because I actually know what they do, and I know that if I stand here, I know that it brings out the best picture. So in this case, if I was photoshopping this particular image you're watching at the moment, not as a video but as a still, because I've got a little dark zone literally just here, I'm out of light. I've tried different lighting, and to be fair, this is where the best light is in the house for me to actually do this, and it's not the easiest of conditions, because if I turn it too much it goes here and it goes a bit here, and I'm just settling with this image. But if I was photoshopping this image, I'd use a soft light filter to adjust this. So I'd create a marquee here, and I'd create a soft light filter, just enough to create the effect that I can go from here to here without it being obvious. And then I would also very carefully trim with the eraser tool and the blur tool the line between this transition and this transition to actually give me a good shot. Now that's saying something I'm not going to do for this video. It's just a little bit too much hassle. It means I have to go into Automate, and my computer unfortunately is not powerful enough to do it fast. This will be about 6-7 hours worth of running just to get that, and then I've got to go to each frame, which gets tiresome. So I'd use something like After Effects to do that effect. Again, not doing it in this video, but that's what I could use. Now, if you're using Snapseed, for example, Snapseed is an interesting tool. Now, it's a free app you use on your mobile phone, and in it you've got all these different features. Now, one of the best elements is ambient light adjustment. So I can actually bring up this area here. So again, this is why, one of the two reasons why I'm here. There's another reason for this as well. But one of the reasons is to actually have an ambient light adjustment. Now, in the ambient light adjustment, you can bring up the scale of light in this area. So the colour temperature isn't affected, but the actual ambient light to which the camera records is adjusted to give you an actual lighter picture or darker picture depending on the actual shot you want to achieve, which I think is kind of fun. But one of the best tools in it is circles. Now, if you understand anything about photo grading, you understand anything about professional video grading, circles is a thing you should know about. Now, circles is just something you hear about and people are not quite sure what it means. Basically what it allows you to do is you can colour grade the shot you want to make, but there's a particular object in shot you want to have a certain way. So what you can do is you can actually create this little circle which fits over the object you're working on, and you can grade it. Now, it seems silly to suggest now, but I've done this in the past with some of the videos I've worked on, and I've done it with photography as well, which is to use circles on an application like Snapseed to actually Photoshop an image. Now, I've got examples, I'll try and put those up. They're definitely on my Twitter feed. Please don't think me the wrong way, but the Twitter address is at PHATTGREG on Twitter. So if you go for at FatGreg, which is not because of my size, is because it's a slang you'll find in the American language for cool in California. I've lived over in the past and I kind of got that as a nickname to use, and I like keeping it because it's not derogatory to me. But so if you go on my Twitter feed, you'll see examples of stuff I have done. There should be a nice one of a lifeboat in Monte Carlo, which has changed. You see the one picture is all sort of nice blue, and in it it's literally golden colour, and that's the first image which is on Twitter is the one done on Snapseed. The second one is the one done on Photoshop, and the difference is actually no difference. they both look the same, they're both using those tools to actually bring out the best picture possible. And it actually makes no real difference between whether you're using something like circles on Snapseed or whether you're using Photoshop. But there's a big difference. Now, Snapseed is a fun program I use regularly. It's the one I don't have to do photoshopping on. I can just go, oh, and I can do an image. I can do some fun effects in it, and I can do some great tools, and it's a good tool to have on my person. I've actually got an iPad with it on. It's an iPad first generation. I like them. I don't see a need to upgrade right away, so I really can't afford to upgrade, so I just do it on an iPad 1, and it's fine. It does the photos I need. If I have problems, I can use the actual iPhone I'm recording this on, which is an iPhone 4. I can take the photo, I can send it to the iPad, I can do the image manipulation, I can send it back to the phone, and I can send it off wherever I need to be. But when it comes to actually Photoshop specifically, you find there's kind of two different ways of thinking about Photoshop and actually how to use it. So that's what this is all about. Now, it sounds complicated. I've gone rehearsing this dozens of times, and this is the 24th video I'm recording today to explain this situation. In a nutshell, there is sort of three planes of existence in Photoshop. Most people, and I mean this includes senior Photoshop retouchers, I mean seasoned professionals. Back in 2005 I helped my brother on Big Brother, handling media, doing photo retouching and sending it to the national press. Now, it ended up being a situation where I ended up going to the national press, having to help them do retouching for the images I'm sending them, because their senior retouchers couldn't do the job. This was Hello Magazine. This was it Hello Magazine? It's one of the major magazines. I know Hello Magazine did a cover from a brother, but I can't remember who it was exactly. But I had to go to their offices because they couldn't figure out a problem. They came and said, "Oh yeah, we can't fix this image. It doesn't look right." And I said, "No, I can do it in 5 minutes." I said, "Oh, you can't. I'm a senior Photoshop technician, and I did it in 5 minutes." And it's just because I know the tools, I know what they are, because I see Photoshop as a three-dimensional plane of existence, and most Photoshop technicians, most retouchers, see it only as a two-dimensional plane of existence. Now, the easiest way I can describe that is with a Rubik's Cube and a Rubik's Magic. Rubik's Cube, which I don't have, I had one kicking around, I have no idea what I did with it. Rubik's Cube, despite being a three-dimensional object, is actually a two-dimensional playing field, essentially. So you can only move on the X and Y axis of the actual puzzle. Now, it is an X, Y and Z three-dimensional puzzle, but you're only moving turn this way, turn that way, or turn this way, turn that way. You're not actually being able to move this up and down or this in and out. You're only able to rotate in essentially two axes of play. Now, so that's a two-dimensional. That's a two-dimensional plane of existence, essentially. Now, on Photoshop, this attributes to people being able to go into Photoshop and use different tools. Now, for example, this might be, you want to change my face blue, so you go up into brushes and you can pick colour, because that's something told in a lot of books, and you use that brushes it. You're told the other ones do other things, but you have to kind of learn what they are. And you go and use this, you use Liquify tool because that's how you're meant to do it, and you can just move it. And you see lots and lots of examples of this. This includes major manufacturers, this includes major retailers, this includes magazines and publishers, and the best ones are where somebody has had a little mouth shot. This is where somebody's had a little bit of touching and they move the tummy in, straighten them up, make them look a bit good, but the background is warped and distorted because they don't understand what Liquify is doing, or they think they know the best way to use it. Now, say I'm doing that particular shot, first thing I do is I'd use the fountain pen tool, which is a Bezel tool. I go up to the top of the screen, you've got three little boxes. One of them has a bulging out marker, one of them has a contracting marker, and one of them's just straight. I pick the straight tool, use this, it's actually called the Bezel Tool, and bezel out this section of me. So I've got this background which is coming up here, and I'm taking my person, and I'm basically bezeling out this part of me which I'm going to liquefy. Create it onto a new layer, and then I liquefy that. Now why is that useful? Because I'm not actually distorting the background, I'm only distorting what I've cut out to manipulate. Now the Bezel Tool is very useful because if you hold down the Alt key whilst you're actually, my hand's all vanishing, forget it's out of shot, hold down the Alt key whilst you're clicking on the, essentially there are 3 points on the axis of the Bezel Tool. So when you're curving, it naturally will want to curve on. So if you click the next point, it will be a natural progression of the curved point. Now you've got the suggested point where it would be, so it's overly complicated. Basically, you've got 3 marker points on this bar. If you click the center one with the Alt key, you remove the first bar, so it only follows the previous point, the new point, which means then you can actually do needlepoint with it, which is fun. And it means you can actually do very precise movements in Photoshop. Now when you know that, you don't use Magic Wand that frequently, because Magic Wand doesn't do the job you need it to do. It just becomes cumbersome. You can, if you want to be quick, or you be lazy, but typically you'll use a Bezel Tool. Now the beauty of a Bezel Tool is it allows you to feather the actual marquee you've created. So you're creating a marquee. Once you click to select the bezeled out line, it basically punches it out with a marquee, but pins you to feather it. So you can actually feather that image, so you can actually get the image you want with enough feather to actually separate from the background. So too much, too little, but just so the line is fuzzy enough to do the shot you want, which then means you can liquefy, pull in the structure. So in this case it's redistort the image so I look thinner, and then on the background, using the clone tool, I can create a background. I can manipulate the background without liquefy, distorting, manipulating the image, so then I can flatten the 2 images. Finally, you need to use a noise. Now why do you need to use a noise tool? Because you're trying to hide the fact you've just gone and cut this and you're squeezing the 2 together. You apply noise to the background image and the front image, and you adjust the noise so it looks pretty close to the original background noise. Why is this crucial? Because it stands out like a sore thumb if you do it wrong. Now let's go and talk about 3-dimensional planes of existence. Now what I was describing is 3-dimensional planes of existence, going in and using a soft light filter, but instead of using a background soft light filter, I'm using the prime brush, I'm clicking soft light, I'm picking colour. I can do the same effect as colour, only I can do it better. And examples have included Black's Guitars, who I helped a friend of mine out with a photography session where the background wasn't exactly what they're looking for. And then the next picture I received was exactly what they're looking for, which was where gravel and bits of rough dirt had become grass. Now there's still dirt, there's still gravel, they look like gravel, they look like dirt, but they're painted exactly the same background colours of grass. So if you looked at the grass, you go, that's grass, that's grass. And I've had people go up before say, oh yeah, that's just normal. I've done for years the Adobe competitions and got nowhere near anywhere close to the high levels of the competition. I've had a few times where they contact me and say, I think you sent the wrong image. Oh right, what do you mean? Oh yeah, you sent just an unedited image. Oh no, that's been photoshopped. No it hasn't. Yeah, it has. And it's the same thing if my skill shows up when basically you don't notice it, which is funny. So that's basically, that's what I'm trying to suggest, is you have 3-dimensional planes of existence. Now going on to the Rubik's cubes. So this is a Rubik's Magic. Strange and Alley, great toy. When you know how the Rubik's Cube works, you assume this all has the same rules and dimensions. So as you play through it, it has same sets of rules, and you can do this, you can do that, and it still looks and behaves in the two-dimensional form. Except the way to solve this, let me get back on the right page, is to break the rules. And it's like a good video game in the olden days where you invited to cheat, you're invited to find a solution, you're invited to essentially break the game and find another way of tackling the problem. So in the case of the Rubik's Magic, the solution is simple, and it actually turns it from a two-dimensional plane existence game, so a two-dimensional game, to a three-dimensional game by quite literally adjusting a few moves to create the end result. And I can't do it blindfolded, but I can do it pretty well to do that in a few steps. When I was at school, I solved that fairly quickly as soon as I realised I could break the rules of the game. The first Rubik's Magic I had, I snapped because I was quite far into it, quite far into the puzzle, and that was a point which, if I'm right, I can actually reproduce. I was near this point in the puzzle, and at the time I didn't know what the solution was. I was trying to find a way of getting it. This is the ideal one. If you're ever in that position, you know literally you're steps away from the end. And once I found out that I could break it by bending over and manipulating the puzzle to actually create a solution, so in this case it's physically going up and bending over, twisting it into an X form, then sliding it around on the axis by essentially, if this was a Rubik's Cube, I'm literally opening up the cube, I'm bending it inside out, and I'm now playing on the inside, so I'm now on a three-dimensional puzzle. And again, in a few steps, I'm back at the beginning. Photoshop is like that. Photoshop is a very, very versatile tool, which a lot of people don't really know. A lot of people look at it as a two-dimensional puzzle and think, oh yeah, I know how to do an image manipulation. I can do grading here, I can do levels here, I can go on the level line and adjust this, I can sharpen the image, I can dull this image, I can clone this, I can do that. But you can do so much more. For the last competition I did for the Adobe Challenge, again, it's on my Twitter feed, so if you have a look at FatGreg, PHATTGREG on Twitter, look at the gallery. In there you'll see this strange screen grab from Photoshop. It's basically me liquefying basically a single high definition image, and we have, I think it's 10 or 20 images in the puzzle, and it was basically you had to orientate it, make it into a piece of art. So I thought, with a theme which is weightlessness. So in my theme, I looked at it, looked at the pictures I had available. So it's a lovely iceberg, and thought, I know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to create an iceberg, and I'm going to create, because the bottom looked like a rock formation you'd see in Petra in Jordan, and it's just a kind of funky kind of red rock sandstone effect. I could actually create a fake cave, like there's something sitting above the cave. So in my three-dimensional mind, it was a structure sitting atop some water with a little bit of a strange iceberg floating in the water in a cave. It's what I liked it, I wanted to do it, so I did it. And I spent probably about 4 hours doing the image, including actually using Liquify to deliberately manipulate the image to the smallest possible size before cropping. That way all the little pebbles in the image I chose looked right for the environment. They looked like they were still the same pebbles, they're not cut out. I'm literally manipulating the image to make it actually work. And if you look who liked it, Adobe liked it. So obviously I caught the attention, and I've learned from the past when I enter these competitions to actually show the evidence I'm actually doing manipulation. Because if I don't, nobody believes me. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like. If you watch more of my videos, please subscribe. And if you're watching this and it's linked onto my CV, this is an explanation of what I can do. please have a look at the images I have provided with my CV so you can actually see what I can do. Thank you very much. I'm Greg, and thank you for watching this video.